Les chasseurs m'apportent comme des petits soldats qui vont me prendre. Je ne veux pas travailler, je ne veux pas déjeuner, je veux seulement l'oublier et puis je fume. J'ai déjà connu le parfum de l'amour, 1 million de roses n'embaument pas autant. Maintenant une seule fleur dans mes entourages me rend malade. Je ne veux pas travailler, je ne veux pas déjeuner, je veux seulement l'oublier et puis je fume. Je ne suis pas fière de ça, de celle qui veut me tuer. C'est magnifique d'être sympathique, mais je ne le saurai jamais. Je ne veux pas travailler, je ne veux pas déjeuner, je veux seulement l'oublier et puis je fume. Sympathique, mais je ne le saurai jamais. Je ne veux pas travailler, je ne veux pas déjeuner, je veux seulement l'oublier et puis je fuis. Je ne veux pas travailler, non, non, je ne veux pas déjeuner, je veux seulement l'oublier et puis je fume. Je fume, ah, je fume, je fume. Hello everyone, happy Saturday. So this is a very huge privilege to introduce you to one of my biggest inspirations since I moved to New York. His name is Linus Wyrsch. He's from Switzerland. He's on my side, but because we have a genius on the logistic, he might appear exactly next to me, but we have in a safe distance for protecting us in the COVID situation. So Linus, welcome to the show.
Merci.
So it's such a privilege to be with you today for absolutely many reasons. I wanted to invite you today specifically because the theme of the show today is the French jazz. And the clarinet played a huge place in, I would say, the development of jazz. We are going to talk about this a little bit later on. But thank you for being with us. Yeah, it's a premiere. You are the first guest. You're going to bring me luck, I'm sure about that. And thank you, everyone, to be here today. I know that there are people coming from the Patreon page, people coming from Facebook, people coming from the Shim list, the newsletter, and people coming from also Instagram. So if you are not connected to the other social media tools, please have a look on the YouTube channel, subscribe on Instagram if you want to, the Facebook, of course, but there is on the website a line where you can put your email address. So the French jazz, I was doing some research to prepare this show, and because I was not totally clear on this notion of French jazz. Is it a real thing, French jazz? Yes and no, or yes with a little perspective that we have to share today. So after the First World War, the American soldier came and stayed a little bit in Paris. And some of them, African American, brought with them amazing foxtrot, amazing charleston, and created some casual groups of musicians and shared their knowledge about this new music that was jazz. And it was an instant crush from the French population. So the African-American players stayed and were invited in orchestra to play some tunes and gave a huge inspiration. And even the French musicians went in to imitate them and take the most of their knowledge, of course, and try to be trained as fast as possible. And it was such a joy to have this heritage, to share this knowledge, that most of the bands, big band in France, transferred their name in American ones. So, you know, like Ray Ventura, it was Raymond, which is a very French name. It became, you know, something very Americanized. Everything was very Americanized. And there is somebody in French between the two wars who definitely created the most form that we know about the French jazz, which is the gypsy jazz or jazz manouche, is Django Reinhardt. And Django Reinhardt plugged onto the quintet of Hot Club de France, which was the little group of friends who were formed by the African American from the first war. So there is a tune that we're going to play. The first part of the show today will be mostly about music, and then we can have a chat and know more about Linus, because he had a very good year this year, and coming to New York brought him a lot of stuff. So we're going to share about his news and everything that's going on for him. So now it will be J'attendrai. So J'attendrai has been made famous by Django Reinhardt and Stéphane Grappelli for this trend that I'm talking about, the jazz manouche. So, J'attendrai, you're going certainly to recognize. It's a wonderful tune. J'attendrai le jour et la nuit, j'attendrai toujours ton retour. J'attendrai car l'oiseau qui s'enfuit vient vient chercher l'oubli dans son nid. L'oiseau phare passe tristement dans mon cœur, et pourtant j'attendrai ton retour. J'attendrai le jour et la nuit. J'attendrai toujours ton retour. J'attendrai, car l'oiseau qui s'enfuit vient chercher l'oubli dans son nid. Le temps passe et court en battant tristement dans mon cœur si lourd. Et pourtant j'attendrai ton retour. J'attendrai le jour et la nuit, j'attendrai toujours ton retour. J'attendrai, car l'oiseau qui s'enfuit vient chercher l'oubli dans son nid. Le temps passe et court en battant tristement dans mon cœur si lourd. Et pourtant j'attendrai ton retour. Thank you, Linus. Thank you so much. I know you don't have the microphone for the moment, so if you're... it's between us for the moment, but it's going to be between all of us soon. So yeah, definitely J'attendrai was a very moving song because it was composed in Italy. It was an Italian song, Tornerei, which means when you will return, but it has been a French version in 1939. And in 1939, we were entering in France the Second World War, and it became an anthem for the return of peace and the return of the loved one. And obviously, Stéphane Grappelli and Django Reinhardt made it very famous. So we are going to go a little bit back in time with two amazing African-American artists that made history in France. It's a very sensitive subject, specifically at this time. And I'm maybe not very qualified to talk about it, but I just want to share what moved me in my research preparing this show. So it happens that I didn't know why Josephine Baker was moving to France when she was 19. And it seems to be that the atmosphere of segregation in America was so thick, was so unbearable, that Paris became an escape. And some African-American artists took the chance to flew, from this very unbreathable atmosphere. And Josephine Baker was doing her breakthrough in France. She was a phenomenon. It was a combination of her character to her talent. It was everything. And there is, I would say, a huge contribution from her and from Sidney Bechet to the jazz scene in France. I would say, of course, Josephine Baker is not an instrumentalist, but she was a singer, and I would say they were a huge contribution to the jazz scene, like for sure, and they transformed the French jazz, and the French jazz wouldn't be the French jazz that we know if it wouldn't be the life story of Josephine Baker and Sidney Bechet. So, in honor of Miss Baker, we are going to have this song that I'm pretty sure you heard of. It's called J'ai deux amours, I've got two love, my country and Paris. Such a declaration of love, right? On dit qu'au-delà des mers, là-bas sous le ciel clair, il existe une cité au séjour enchanté. Mais sous les grands arbres noirs, chaque soir, vers elle s'envole tout mon espoir. J'ai deux amours, mon pays et Paris, par toujours, mon cœur est ravi. Oui, Manhattan est belle, mais à quoi bon le nier? Ce qui m'ensorcelle, c'est Paris, Paris tout entier. Le voir un jour, c'est mon rêve joli. deux amours, mon pays et Paris. J'ai deux amours, mon pays et Paris. Par et toujours, mon cœur est ravi. Oui, Manhattan est belle, mais à quoi bon le nier? Ce qui m'ensorcelle, c'est Paris, Paris tout entier. Le voir un jour, c'est mon rêve joli. J'ai deux amours, mon pays et Paris. Mon pays est Paris, par toujours, mon cœur est ravi. Oui, Manhattan est belle, mais à quoi bon le nier? Ce qui m'ensorcelle, c'est Paris, Paris tout entier. La voir un jour, c'est mon rêve. J'ai deux amours, mon pays est Paris, mon pays est Paris, mon pays est Paris. Yes, so Josephine Baker, so such a declaration of love. So she flew when she was 19, and she had really a breakthrough. Everybody loved her. So I was very surprised that France was that welcoming, knowing that France has a very tight relationship with colonization. But doing a little bit more research, I discovered that the intellectual artists in Paris between the two wars were maybe the first to question colonization. And also I discovered that it was from French studies that finally all the horror that has been told about African people were brought to the truth. So all the research were done in France. Sadly, France was one of the last countries to give up with colonization, but still it makes sense that some African American musicians were really having a little, I would say, escape or a little bit of release coming in France. Then what happened is that the big crisis of the 30s, the crack of the Black 30 in America, put America down financially speaking and economically speaking. And so most of the American musicians had to go back to America, and then the Second War appeared. Still, we are going to mention Sidney Bechet, and then the clarinet now is going to have his big time, right? So Sidney Bechet came shortly before Josephine Baker. He was the part of the same show of Josephine Baker, and if she was the star dancing, he was the star playing. So Sidney Bechet was important and known in America, certainly as a musician, while he was a huge star in Europe. He really had his place to sparkle and to have all the light on him. And he was very appreciated as being one of the great melodists. And also, he was one of the first American musicians that took officially the job of being one of the master and doing master class with French musicians. So definitely Sidney Bechet was really, really one of the most famous African-American musician that transformed the jazz in France in a French jazz. So in honor of Sidney Bechet, we are going to play one of his famous songs. Les fleurs qui bordent les chemins se fanent toutes demain. Je garderai au cœur celle qui s'allumait dans tes yeux lorsque je t'aimais tant. Au pays merveilleux de nos 16 printemps, petite fleur d'amour, tu fleuriras toujours pour moi. Quand la vie par moments me trahit, tu restes mon bonheur, petite fleur. Sur mes 20 ans, je m'arrête un moment pour respirer le parfum que j'ai tant aimé. Tu fleuriras toujours au grand jardin d'amour, petite fleur. Petite fleur au grand jardin d'amour, petite fleur. What a melodist. What a wonderful melody and melodist. So yeah, as I try to share the 2 cents that I found in my research. American jazz and African American jazz had made everything for the French jazz, and there is a huge gratitude and feeling of gratitude for so many musicians. Nowadays, I'm speaking about my own experience. There are some European musicians, they come to New York to find, I would say, a space for jazz. Of course, New Orleans is the birth of jazz, but there is really a very vibrant jazz scene in New York that I went to look for, and I went to meet other musicians. They were as passionate as me to share that. And specifically about trad jazz. And you can see in the streets that some people, they're just, dress absolutely from head to toe in vintage clothes, but for them it's their everyday clothes, and New York is that specific that every trend or every people that want to express himself in a certain field will not necessarily receive any judgment about that. So there is a very, very underground scene of people that are so dedicated to keep the trad jazz alive, and Linus is going to talk about that a little bit later on about that. But yeah, there is something about it. I think it's not necessarily nostalgia, but there is such poetry and so much delicate lyrics and also harmonic. I think we are so in love with that. So I songwrite some songs, and there is one inspired by this period of time. It's called Seul Trésor, meaning the only treasure, or the main treasure. And it's about love, obviously, and it's about the treasure of receiving some love between two people, an amount of love that can change your life to the fact that you want to spend your life with this person. And I'm talking in this song about the space that we can leave to each other just to continue together to grow as individual. So it's this treasure of space that it's about. Doucement, tout lentement, prise dans tes sables mouvants. Et si demain, entre tes mains, je n'avais plus peur, même mon cœur incertain verrait cette pomme d'amour, mon Adam. Je ne serai jamais serpent de cette pomme. J'en veux tout comme tu es libre, ô mon trésor. Oh, da di da di why da da Tout doucement, tout lentement, présenter sa bleu mouvant. Et si demain, entre tes mains, je n'avais plus peur, même mon cœur incertain verrait cette pomme d'amour, mon Adam. Promis, je ne serai jamais serpent de cette pomme. J'en veux te comme tu es libre au monde. Trésor. Thank you, Linus. So it's a little bit weird, I have to say, because I'm talking to him, but if I turn my head, I'm not with you anymore. So we're going to fix the problem for the conversation for sure, because we are going to have the brighter space. Okay, so next is about one of my favorites. I would say he's dead a decade ago, maybe 20 years ago only, but he's, I mean, from my period of time, is Serge Gainsbourg. Very, very good songwriter, very fine musician. It so happens that Serge Gainsbourg was a jazz pianist as a first job, and he turned into songwriting because he turned into songwriting into the yeye. So I would say 50s and 60s, where the music industry was so flourishing, and it was, you know, a gold mine, I would say. So it was much more, financially speaking, much more interesting to turn into songwriting than continuing being a jazz pianist. Long story short, it has a very, very cool connection with the French jazz, because when he was a jazz pianist, his band of, I would say, pals and friends were Boris Vian, Juliette Gréco, and then after the Second War, American jazzmen came back, and here we are talking about, you know, Dizzy Gillespie, Coleman Hawkins, Kenny Clarke, then Duke Ellington, Miles Davis. And what is the connection between a very random French song and Miles Davis? There is a big one, because the first release of this song, which is called La Javanaise, was released by Juliette Gréco, and Juliette Gréco was the love heart, the big heart, the sweet heart of Miles Davis. So yes, the French-American connection was really something. As a French citizen, I have to say thank you for all the African-American jazz musicians. They gave us such a passion for this new language. Thank you so much. Yeah, a little part of France. This song, La Javanaise, is something also very cute about the theme, because the question that I'm going to ask to Linus is that why so many people are getting onto trad jazz when pop music is awesome, you know, rap music is awesome, like all electronic music is awesome. So why turning to the past, you know, question mark. And there is always a tenderness, I would say, for the past generation. And sometimes we have more acquaintance with the past generation for many, I don't know which reasons, you know, sometimes it speaks to us a little bit more. And Serge Gainsbourg, specifically in La Javanaise, so it's a song written in 1963, but he's talking about the dance of the 20s. He's talking about la Javanaise, which comes from a nickname of a dance that was the competition of the valse, because the valse was considered too poshy, I would say. And so for the ball, for the parties, the popular parties, people invented a dance that could be easier to dance because people were closer. So people were dancing very close by, in opposite of the valse. So it was most convenient for the ballroom because you could fit more people. That was invented for that. And the nickname of the Javanaise comes from the Javanese culture, where there was a lot of sensual and very exotic moves. And because the Javanaise was considered as a very, a little bit too much, a little bit, I would say, risky, risky dance, we called it la Javanaise as, this exotic dance. It was not that exotic at all, but it was very sensual. And so Serge Gainsbourg dedicated a song, La Javanaise, about his nostalgia, about the 20s. La Javanaise, ladies and gentlemen. J'avoue, j'en ai bavé pour vous, mon amour. Avant d'avoir eu vent de vous, mon amour. Ne vous déplaise en dansant la Javanaise. Nous aimions le temps d'une chanson. À votre avis, qu'avons-nous vu de l'amour? De vous à moi, vous m'avez eu, mon amour. Ne vous déplaise en dansant la Javanaise. Nous aimions le temps d'une chanson. Hélas, avril en vain me voue à l'amour. J'avais envie de voir en vous cet amour. Ne vous déplaise en dansant la Javanaise. Nous aimions le temps d'une chanson. C'est vous qui l'avez voulu, mon amour. Ne vous déplaise en dansant la Javanaise. Nous aimions le temps d'une chanson. La vie ne vaut d'être vécue sans amour. Mais c'est vous qui l'avez voulu, mon amour. Ne vous déplaise en dansant la Javanaise. Nous aimions le temps d'une song. Thank you, Linus. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are having a comment moment. Maybe not yet. No, not yet. Let's finish with the songs, and then I'm so excited to present you Linus, and you know, he has some amazing news to share. He's one of the most prolific and most inspiring musicians, and I know, and I'm not saying that because he's my first guest, it's absolutely true. So that's why he's my first guest, because he's the most renowned. There is a logic behind. Okay, let's do it. Let's fall in love. Not this time. But what I'm saying is that we are going to play a song that could be in the theme of the next month. So because for those who don't know me yet, my name is Margot Sergent. I'm running a band which is called the French Cabaret, which is usually a band with singing, harp, bass, guitar, could be clarinet as well. So yeah, it's a multi-dimensional band, I would say, but there is three main influences that I love to share and to dig onto. So the trad jazz, because it's very linked to the French jazz, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes. Obviously, thinking of my uncle, so the Great American Songbook that I was listening when I was a little kid and influenced me tremendously to the point to leave my country to live here in America. And life happened that sometimes a big sun is entering into your life and you don't see it coming. But Brazil is a huge part of my heart as well. So every month we're going to alternate French jazz, then American trad jazz, and then bossa nova. And there will be a solo gig, me and my voice and my harp and my baby. And then 2 weeks later, we'd be with a guest. And I'm really, really, really glad to introduce you to this underground scene. So all the musicians I'm going to invite are just phenomenal. They are one of the best, musicians, but they are not overexposed, or they don't have maybe a manager or production society whatsoever. So they are still underground, but believe me, they are the most inspirational people, and they're going to be big one day. I'm sure of that. So yeah, I'm really glad that you can enter by the mouse, hole, and come with me to see what's going on in New York City. I'm talking too much. Irresistible de nos amours. So it's a French song that has been adapted in the jazz standards. I wish you love. Ce soir, le vent qui frappe à ma porte me parle des amours mortes devant le feu qui s'éteint. Ce soir, c'est une chanson d'automne devant le feu qui frissonne. Et je pense aux jours lointains. Que reste-t-il de nos amours? Que reste-t-il de ces beaux jours? Une photo, vieille photo de ma jeunesse. Que reste-t-il des billets doux, des mois d'avril, des rendez-vous, un souvenir qui me poursuit sans cesse. cheveux au vent, baisers volés, rêves mouvants. Que reste-t-il de tout cela? Dites-le-moi. Un petit village, un vieux clocher, un paysage si bien caché dans un nuage. Cher visage de mon passé.
I wish you health, but more than wealth, I wish you love. My broken heart, and I agree that you and I could never be. So with my best, my very best, I set you free. I wish you shelter in the storm, cozy fire to keep you warm. But most of all, when snowflakes fall, I wish you love.
Perfect timing for the bell. I'm in. Okay, so now we're going to switch the camera. Maybe we don't need to be apart. Would it be a possibility for us to have, both of us? Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So, Linus, I'm so thrilled. it couldn't be a better first guest, performance.
Thank you so much for having me as the first guest. I'm honored. Thank you.
I mean, we met a long time ago in New York. I was at the very beginning of my journey.
That's right, yeah.
I had no clue. At this time, I was already impressed because you were. So, remind me, are you from classical background, or how did you get to? Oh, we have a logistic issue.
Oh, is this on? Okay. One, two.
It's not on?
Check.
Check.
Hello. Testing. Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
On the air.
Ricardo, you are the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Yeah.
We are still on 2 cameras.
Yes.
Okay, so Linus,
We'll
don't
face
take it.
this
Don't
way.
take it
Okay.
personally.
I'm not looking,
I'm not looking at you.
I'm really angry with you.
Okay, me too. Me too. Okay, so tell me more about. So how did you came to jazz? What's happening in your life now? And this is your moment. People want to know more.
Where do I begin? I also tend to talk too much, so I'll no, but
I feel you. No worries. I won't judge you.
You asked me.
What was your background?
Yeah, my background, classical or jazz. Sorry. Yeah. Well, this is a bit complicated, but I mean, I definitely grew up as a big jazz fan. My father is a bass player and was, I had the luxury of having a great access to a great CD collection, and really kind of made my whole way through there. That was like one of my childhood things, just to pick out some albums and all that. And that was mostly jazz, of course, all types of jazz. But that being said, an instrument like the clarinet, you need, well, many instruments are like this, I suppose, but I wanted to have like a classical approach to the instrument, and to this day, when it comes to the sound or certain things, it just there definitely is a classical background, and I had a good 10 years of private lessons with a classical teacher. Yeah.
And so what brings you to New York? So why did you decide it at some point? Because there is a huge jazz scene in Europe, and I mean Montreux Jazz Festival is something, right?
Yeah,
so why did you decide to move to New York? What brings you there?
Yeah, first of all, to pick up on where you just left off there, I had the great pleasure of seeing a lot of great musicians in Switzerland, because they tour through Switzerland. It's a lot of great jazz greats that I got to see there. So that's one thing. And then first of all, I came to study at Berkeley in Boston, and then like I said, listening to all these recordings that my dad had. I mean, with the word New York or New Jersey or whatever, those words were quite often on the back of those albums, and I was always kind of intrigued by, well, what is on seeing some films and stuff, and just knowing that a lot of musicians have their base in New York, that always kind of drew me to New York, and just trying to explore that place and see how come there's so much great music coming out of that place,
And now that you lived in New York for how many years? Maybe 8 years?
12, I think, at least. Yeah, 12 years.
Okay, good.
I think I'm at 12 right now.
So I guess you are not disappointed by New York, right? So what was the reality before compared to the expectation from Switzerland, saying, oh, what is this magical place where there is so great musician, and what's happened there? So what makes New York so specific as a jazz scene?
Well, I still think it's my personal relationship with New York is a bit of a hate-love, which I think many of us have that. So if I may say that, no offense to any New Yorkers, but New Yorkers, I do love a lot of things about the city, and I think it's still a magnet for just musicians from everywhere. I mean, including yourself, and just people coming from, and you mentioned Brazil. There's a lot of there's a Brazilian scene, there's a Latin scene, there is the French and Manouche and all that. So I think it's just still, let's hope this, what's going on right now isn't changing that in the long run, but it's still a place for people that come together, and where it's also about, this personal interaction with each other, and these different genres that meet each other here. which can also create a lot of new things, which I also would say, and now I'm talking too much, but just real quick, I would say that
Take your time.
what you said about this sort of nostalgia and looking back, it's the same kind of idea behind that. It's just like you can create something new looking back. So you don't have to be a purist necessarily and only play this music and play it exactly in the style. That's my opinion. People have different opinions about this, but I think looking back and at least learning and appreciating the older styles that came before really eventually may lead you to something new, or at the very least may lead you to your own style and to your own interpretation of these tunes. And many of these tunes, obviously, like something like La Javanaise or so, it just doesn't get much better than that. And I'm not so concerned when a tune was written. It just happens that there's a lot of great music that comes out of that time.
I so relate because I do an instrument that it's not legitimate in any style I talk about before. But I'm here in New York trying to dig onto those pockets of musicians. They are so committed to it that with them I can approach, not reach, but approach or getting to the direction, to the core of each style. Because there is, I really feel this way, that in New York, you can go into a very small bar and then you recognize a musician that has the big, awarded crown in his head. And you can just shake your hand saying, you know what, I'm a fan of yours for my whole entire life. And he's, yeah, go take a seat. Or what do you play, whatever. There is roots and the common connection between all those musicians and their passions. then you find yourself.
Yeah.
This is so true. This is so true. Like digging onto all the classics and all of the standards and trying to get the essence of it, and it takes years. I'm the beginning of the journey. But yeah, definitely it influenced my songwriting in a way I wouldn't not expected it. I'm really in a tank. I would say a nice shark tank. The shark are very nice sometimes, and but in this shark tank there is such a transformation. I felt it in Berkeley. First of all, we went at the same music school, but here in New York, it's a constant laboratory, I would say.
Yeah, and you like you said. I mean, I feel like you've been saying this multiple times that like you're not legitimate in any style or something like this, but to me you sound like Margot, you know. And
yeah,
that's
my
what's
instrument
important,
is
that's
not
what counts,
historically
you know?
legitimate.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
what I'm saying is that I am on my journey in the jazz. I'm on a journey in the Great American Songbook. I'm in the journey in the bossa nova. But historically speaking, I would say there is a part of Harp Marx, Alice Coltrane, Dorothy Ashby.
Yeah.
I can count, you know, the harp influences. And also the instrument is not exactly meant to be a bebop one, to be totally honest. But yeah, the journey is fascinating and being surrounded by, I mean, I can listen to you forever since the beginning. Since the beginning, and I was very inspired from the beginning, and now I'm saying all, you know, your career expanding, and it makes so much sense to me, and I'm so happy for you. So I'm happy to introduce you to the audience. I'm helping to grow the audience so there be more people knowing you, and let them know more about what is your website, what is your next project.
Sure.
Just one thing, the people, some transmission lost the audio when you were shaking your hands.
Uh-oh.
So they lost the part that you said about the Grammy.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so if you
All the part?
Yeah, all this part.
Linus as well?
My part? Or
This part like for 2 or for 3 minutes. If you wanna
About the Grammy?
Yeah, and explain what you're doing in your hands.
Okay, so I was applauding because something happened in Linus' life last year. Sorry about I won't do it anymore. If you want to resume,
should I restate my hang on. So yeah, I play with the children's music group, family music. It's jazzy music. The band is called Lucy Kalantari and the Jazz Cats. And last year, our album was nominated for a Grammy for Best Children's Album, and we won last year. So that was really super exciting. And something else that we were saying that just kind of, you know, only in New York, like the sky is the limit. There's a lot of people with that mentality that you meet in New York.
Yeah, definitely there is a mentality. It's not that there is not incredible musicians elsewhere.
Of course not.
Of
Yeah,
course
I mean,
not.
Of course there is.
But there is a shark tank which is very hard to live in because everything is so expensive and love is very violent, I would say. This is why we have maybe a hate and love relationship with New York. But meanwhile, I mean, I saw Seu Jorge at the Blue Note, and then Marky Ramones from the Ramones came to my show at Jules Bistro. I mean, come on, you know, it's just only in New York, only in New York. And this is this vibe and energy of the most passionate, one of the most, or some of the most passionate musicians, and they're so dedicated to their art that they're driving themselves crazy to be immersed in music all the time. So definitely you get some inspiration and you are lifted up, that's for sure. So I'm going to have a short look to the comments. Last time, I spent too much time on the comments, and I lost myself in the comments. I was too girly. I was too. Oh, I like it.
While I look, I will maybe quickly. While you look, I will maybe quickly mention that both of us we have something in common. Both of us just got recently married.
Absolutely.
I
don't want to clap again, but
freshly.
Yeah, definitely there is something happening in your life
this year as well.
Me too.
Yeah, to a great. I got married to a great composer and jazz singer. Gizem Gokolu is her name. So yeah, very happy.
More to discover. So
6 weeks ago or something like that.
First of all, congratulations on my best wishes. Again, I said to you 20 times. But
Same to
still,
you.
Still. Thank you. And definitely we are going to put on the comments or on the replay all the information for Linus and Gizem website. So basically, we have congratulations, Margot and Mr. Clarinet. You are Mr. Clarinet now.
I'll take that.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us today. Oh, that's so nice of you. Okay, so I know that Linus has another show. This is New York's Live. So we are going to end the show for today, but thank you for being with us. Thank you, Ricardo Corazza, for all the logistic part. Nick Capuano was here as well 2 weeks ago to make all the setup, so he's with us-ish too. And Linus, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me, really, thank you.
And yeah, so there will more to come to transition to we don't know what, but yeah, let's the show go on, and thank you for being with us. You have seen certainly the Venmo link, the PayPal link if you want to do some donations to support us for more show, to come up with this show and more show. And thank you for all my Patreons who are with me for making the shows possible. Have a great day. Bye-bye.